Then there was the George W. Bush thing. As many listeners probably saw about a year ago, I disrupted a speech by George W. Bush, got to yell a bunch of shit at him, and got dragged out by security. And while it was really celebrated by like the biggest audience I've ever been exposed to, and it appealed to such a huge variety of people, because, you know, who doesn't hate George W. Bush, it was just a really weird experience for me personally. I'm definitely happy that I did it. It's funny, right before the invasion of Iraq, George Bush actually came to my duty station at Fort Drum to give a speech to the division, and each battalion had to pick like 2 of their star soldiers to sit behind him during the speech for all the photos. And so, of course, your boy got picked, and my mom still has this full-page newspaper photo of Bush speaking, and there I am right over his shoulder in the image. And again, this is right before the invasion. So for it all to come around full circle like that was really meaningful for me. And most importantly, I got to say to his face what so many who are touched by the war would want to say. But the whole thing afterwards was just weird. I kind of expected it would just get seen among the anti-war community and hopefully inspire some similar actions, which it did. The following day, a great guy named Jeb Sprague, who had a close family member who was destroyed by the war, interrupted Bush in Long Beach, and a woman named Tamara Yorinks did the same in Canada. The part that got weird for me was it went like way too viral. On one single account, it got like 60 million views. With all the others combined, it was definitely way over 100 million views. And I honestly did not like that much attention. It's hard to explain, but just made me not want to be seen or heard for a while. Part of it, I think, was it being like a social media thing where I felt like a lot of the virality was just because once something starts to go viral, especially on TikTok, it just becomes a way for influencers and content creators to capture some of that virality. And there was, I feel, too much focus on this idea of who I am and me instead of attention on Bush as a war criminal and the people who suffered in Iraq and in the veterans community. I also kind of felt like some of what I said was interpreted in a way I wasn't comfortable with. Because I was interrupted, I didn't get to say everything that I wanted to. Part of what I was doing was reading a list of names of Iraqis who had been killed in different massacres, as well as many friends and comrades from the anti-war struggle who died by suicide after the war, or from their injuries, or from toxic exposure. People I really think about all the time, and was thinking about a lot the night before as I was preparing for the Bush event. And doing that to illustrate that for Bush and for the people in that room, the Iraq war was very much over, very much in the past. But for everyone touched by it, it is a thing that still is taking lives daily, on top of the thousands of soldiers and million Iraqis who were killed during the course of the war. But in the social media frenzy, I felt like it got turned into about how I am this poor guy who has suffered so badly. And even though I've had my share of bad experiences, as did the people around me, I was extremely lucky compared to what came next in the war. And so for people who weren't familiar with my experiences before, maybe created a different idea of who I am. And it was like the more the video got seen, the more it abstracted who I was and the stories I've been sharing over the years. Being in Iraq myself and then being so immersed in the anti-war movement until the war ended, being around so many other veterans, military families who had lost loved ones, people from Iraq, I was just so in touch with the misery that Bush created by being just a lying piece of shit. And so after I was able to explode out all that rage at him, part of me was like, now I've said everything I can say, and maybe I don't need to say anything anymore. And part of it, like I said, was just being turned off by the weirdness of the whole experience in the TikTok age, feeling like I became a caricature of some kind instead of the focus being on those I was trying to honor.
A wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of Iraq. I mean, of Ukraine. Iraq.
I'm a hawk. I would have picked up arms myself to prevent 9/11 again.
I've left.
As president, I wanted to give myself the Congressional Medal of Honor, but they wouldn't let me do it. They wouldn't let me do it. I said, I'm going to give myself the I've always wanted that.
We
We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers in the South China Sea. We're not going to pay attention.
5 left.